All right, well, we should be live. The button says we're live, so we must be. Welcome back. If you're following along, last night was a rough night. Oh my goodness, the last 3 hours I thought I was losing my mind, and I kind of was, because it was late in the middle of the night. I think it's like everything's funnier at 3 a.m. It was exactly that. So, good thing we're back in the morning. Kind of like, as a person creating content for YouTube, my opinion is like, well, I have to get it done because it's like, you gotta get it done in one take, otherwise, nobody watches the part two, right? So, but the reality from last night's experience going on a 7-hour live stream is that when you get to the point where it's time to call it, just do a part two the next day. So here we are. I am determined. I got work to do, but I'm like, I gotta get this done because my mind will not let me sleep until I've finished debugging this. So we're gonna go read through the script, find the bug, and fix it. And if we can't find the bug easily, we're going to potentially quickly refactor it by breaking it into multiple smaller pieces, which should be pretty easy to do since we've already written the script. So that's that. Hey, welcome Izin, great to have you. And yeah, welcome back anybody who happened to be up with us last night and back in the morning. Great to have you back. If not, no worries. And yeah, let's go ahead and start. Oh, please define these options. Thanks for voting for that. That was great. All right. Well, feel free to keep voting. I did put a fun little poll in there for us today. I'm going to go ahead and start traveling to our world that we created last night. Let's see what to do. And this is the wave function collapse world. And I'll try. Boop. There we go. Okay, so that should come in. Very nice. All right, so we got the video coming in. If you ever have any questions as we're going along, please feel free to ask them. I'm also going to move our chat window. Should be able to grab that and move it to right here where you guys are at. And then click pen. Very nice. And resume Horizon. Okay, welcome back, welcome back. All right, if you're just joining us for the first time, we are at the state of debug or refactor. And you can comment and follow along. You can vote in the poll. You can ask questions, all the fun things. I also have the chat here in the live in Horizon with me, so I can actually read your messages. So that's cool as well. Now, I guess we'll start with a quick introduction for those just joining us first. So, what is wave function collapse? Well, this is our attempt. You can see it's not correct, and that's what we're going to be debugging. But ideally, what's happening here is it chooses one of these pieces at random, it chooses an orientation for that piece, and then it places it down. So say, for instance, it starts with this one, and it decides to place it right there in the center. Then it looks at the following surrounding pieces, and this is what the quote wave function collapse is doing, is it looks at the surrounding pieces and it says, how many possibilities are here, how many possibilities are here, how many possibilities are here, and how many possibilities are here. And so then it finds all of those possibilities, determines which one has the least number of possibilities, and this is how it collapses. It collapses by choosing the one with the least number of options. And so it looks at all of these permutations, and it might choose this one for this one, right? So we don't know exactly which side it chooses, but it chooses one and it places it, although that's identical, which is hysterical. But anyway, then it might choose this one for this. Excuse me. Hello, sir. Thank you. So then it might choose this one for this one here, and then it will look at this cell and it'll see, oh, it's got two things that it has to match up with. And so it might choose this one here that has both matches and place that there. Or there. And then it continues looking at each cell going through. I'll try to pronounce your name better. Oh my gosh, Tyson! How do I keep doing that, Tyson? I literally don't understand how I'm so bad at your name. Oh, I feel so bad. My goodness. Okay, so anybody just tuning in, I have been mispronouncing Tyson's name wrong for like coming on a year, I think. It's been wretched, so serious apologies to him. But thanks for sticking with me despite my absolute butchering. But yeah, so we're back, and we need to determine the last few. So I'm just going to quickly pop some in. So we got some corner pieces that could go here. Now that these are both open, this could be a room piece. So that's what this empty one is. This represents a room. And then there might be another room next to the room. You know, this could potentially happen where you get two pieces of room, and then it needs a end piece here. And so it might put a hallway right there. And then maybe it ends with, gotta have that. So perhaps it ends with this one. And so basically you can create this with as many tiles. And so the way we've written the script is it's a 3x3 as just our test. And then once we get beyond 3x3, we're going to, and there goes my cell phone, which is okay. I don't need it. So once we get beyond this, we can then change it to 5x5 or 10x5 and whatever we want to do, which is going to be exciting. So anyway, this is the goal. Now we're going to go ahead and slide this off to the side in case anybody joins us and wants to know what we're doing. We can show them that. Looks like we've got a few more people have joined, so welcome in again. And let's continue. This is the one that's causing the issues. So we tested orientations and they placed correctly and rotated correctly. So we thought. Perhaps we need to start back just a hair further and ignore this guy. Let's go ahead and turn this one off. And so to turn this guy off, we're just going to create an if and then grab the Boolean variable false or value false and then indent all of these things in here. And then that stops that, but then this still comes in. And I guess actually we can leave these here, but then let's take this down. This is what starts the entire loop, and it starts it by sending add asset and check possible. So I'm just going to put these in, which should prevent it from continuing. In fact, we could probably put the whole thing in here. And now we just got an on-off switch, which is kind of nice. Okay, there's our on-off switch. So it's off, and now if I hit play, theoretically nothing happens over there. And correct, nothing has happened. So then what we want to do is connect this guy back into here. So this is what we originally did, is we connected it into here. But I don't feel like we did enough testing. I mean, we did, but did we? So I just really want to make sure we're testing every step of the way to see if there is any bugs. So right here, we send spawned current position with all of the asset vars, directions, and asset rotations. And so these are all the values, and they actually arrive right here. And when they arrive here, we were then choosing one at random and placing it. So actually we can keep part of this active. So we set the values to be the same variables that we had. Then we choose one from the list. So we set the current choice to be a random integer between 0 and the length of the asset vars. Bye, Tyson. And so that's our current choice. And then the current position is a value between 0 and row count times column count. So then we send add asset to the asset spawner with the current choice, the current position, and the current rotation. So this is going to cause an item to spawn. And what we want to do is confirm that all of the values that are being sent actually match. So we're going to grab the debug print and debug print the current spawn position. So this represents which cell is it spawning into. We also want to debug print the current rotation, although we don't need it like that. The way we think about rotation is from the direction list, which we have here. Get current choice from open directions. And so we'll place that into there. And I believe that's really all we need. Debug print the current choice from open directions. Okay. So let's go ahead and hit play and see what this does. Script. Oh, and the world was started. Oh, snap. Oh no, we're good. Hit play. Hey, okay, so it spawned this piece here. And if I open up my menu, this is position 0, and it is 0 to the north, 1, 1, 1 to the north. Okay, if you're just joining us and you're like, why is it 1, 1, 1? I'd love to explain that to you, so welcome again. Sorry, my nose is like, so the thing that we're looking at here is we're basically using a string to determine the cardinal directions, north, east, south, and west. We use a 0 and a 1 to determine whether it's a wall or open. And so a 0 represents a wall and it's closed to the north. Then 1 is open, hallway, open, hallway, open, hallway. So that is how we are looking at this. And so far, these are placing correctly, which is what we had determined last night, but I just was feeling a little doubtful. So this is placed in position 5. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is position 5, and it is open on all sides. So that's also correct. Stop, clear, and play. And this one is in position 3. It is open on all sides. Okay. So I feel like this is working pretty well. Now, we've gone and confirmed that this works. So then the next step is just to keep cycling through here. So the first thing I want to look at up here is when world is started, we are initializing a few lists. So we say, while the length of place cells is less than row count times column count, add this to the cell list. And so when it equals 8, it adds the 9th one. Same thing happens here with the total possible options list. And that adds a -1 to represent those cells. We were talking about, instead of using this space bar, using ... for similarity. I think we should do that. It's going to change a few lines here later, but 4 periods will make this easier so they're always the same. And so 4 periods means that the cell is empty, is what that means. So it's like we have 0 and 1 to represent the cell state, but then if it's that, it means it hasn't been defined. Length of place cells rotations, and then while the length of total possible options is less than row count times column count, add -1 to total possible options. So again, we're using a -1 to represent that there's nothing there. And then like it's undefined. And then while length of filled positions is less than row count times column count, we add a false to the filled positions because it's empty. So we got to make sure that it's listed as empty. And then when spawn current position is received with asset list, directions, and rotations, set asset vars to asset lists. Okay, so then we're passing this information through. We're spawning the first value in. And what we should do immediately after adding this value is set the space to be false. Interesting. I'm not sure what this is doing. That's not what we needed. What I wanted to do was go to our operators tab, scrolling down. There is set value at index in list. And so now that we've added an asset, we want to set it to be true, meaning it's been filled in the Boolean list for is the space filled. So filled position list at the ispawn current position is now filled. And then the next thing we do is we set the current choice in the open directions at ispawn current position. So here we are setting this to be the value we just got in the placed cell rotations. So we've updated that. That makes sense. We then want to send check possible. To send check possible, we have to first set iCheck possible to 0. Also, order here doesn't actually matter, but it's nice. We have to clear the current state and we have to set any space open to false, and then send check possible. So what any space open is going to do is it's basically checking to see if there's any space open. And so I think it might actually be nice to ignore this. This is okay because this runs the first time. We're going to delete any space open and run a simple while loop down here in our, at the very bottom is where we do our normal spawning. And so here we were setting any space open, but instead what I'd like to do is say while. Oh, actually, I guess we'll need the variable. So let's go ahead and undo. I see how we're going to use it though. So There it is. Okay. So then what we'll say is while we're going to loop through the Boolean list, and the goal is that if something is true, we set this to, so basically you've got 9 spaces, and if all 9 spaces are false, no, excuse me, true, if all 9 spaces are true, then we know we've cleared it. So if it's not true, we can set this to false. Although I think we should try and do this the opposite way. So it says, if the space is filled, don't do anything. So if it is not filled, we need to do something. So grab the not operator and say, if that space is not filled, then set any space open to, is any space open true? Because then if it's not filled, that means there's a space open. So we set this to true, which means we can then run another if right here before this, where we say, if any space is open, then continue looping by sending check possible back to self, which doesn't need to be in the while loop. There we go. So a couple more things left to set here. I see a couple votes coming in to define what is the difference between debug and refactor. That is a great question. So debug is what we're doing right now, which is working through the script and finding little errors and kind of fixing things that might be causing problems. And refactor means to just start over. It's like, it didn't work, we're going to just start over. So, yep, those are what those are. Okay, so while also, if you're just joining us, there's a 7-hour stream that precedes this from last night. You don't need to watch that stream to enjoy this, because we are getting pretty close to finishing, which is the exciting part. But if you're interested in how we got here, definitely check that out. Feel free to watch it in 2x and cut it down from 7 to 3.5 hours. My goodness, but it's a pretty crazy process we got to here. Okay, so what we want to do is run a while there are items in the list, and then we create a parallel Boolean list. So we call this Boolean list, and it's not parallel, excuse me, it's an iterator list. So these are I bools, and then click confirm. And so then we can set ibools right before the while loop runs, and we set it to be the filled position list. So we're just copying the values over here so that we can delete them as we work through the while loop. And so then we can say while the length of ibools is greater than 0, wrong symbol, let's go get the greater than symbol, boop, up at the top, need that greater than, there it is, and scroll back down. Okay, so while the length of the ibools list is greater than 0, we then continue looping through this, and we iterate through this by removing the item. So you can remove item at index after we're done with it. So put this at the bottom, put a 0 in the number slot, and the ibools here. So we're taking the first item, checking it, and then removing it. So that's where we get the item from list right here. And we get item 0 from the ibools list. And that's relatively clean, but to quickly go through what it's doing, so we're setting this ibools list to the filled positions, which tell us whether or not the position's been filled. We then say while the length is greater than 0, meaning there's items left in the list. Let's go loop through this really quickly. And then it removes item at 0. So by removing item at 0 at the very end, we can then use it, which is saying if the value is not true at position 0 in the ibool list, we then set any space to open to true, which basically is saying there's a space open there. Welcome back, gamer. Great to have you back. And then by having that set to true, we will then run this if, which sends check possible, so we continue looping. So that is how we are using that, which removes some of this excess code over here, which was doing exactly the same thing, but in a way more complicated way. So here we were saying if not get item I check possible from filled position list, say it's literally the same stuff, set any space open to true. I think that is, okay to delete because we're not using it here. I do have to move all of this outside of this if, so that's going to take a second. And just keep dragging these up. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Undo. What did I... Oh, I dragged... What? Okay, I see what happened. It didn't visually like make sense when I watched it, but if I scroll down, here's where I continue dragging out. There we go. Okay, we've removed that if from here, which is good. Now we were using the any spaced open value here to determine if we could continue. Okay. So we're using any space value here to determine if the space was open, and then we would send possible position. Else if any space is open, send possible position. This basically just happened no matter what. Gonna have to work through this to figure that out in a second. But I believe that's the value we just removed. Any space open, yes. Make sure that's not in here anywhere else. More or less, this is always true, so it sends possible position, which is weird because it should only send possible position once we've completed going through the list. So this actually doesn't make sense. Go ahead and delete that. We send possible position once we're done. And so I check possible is less than check possible, which continues the loop because it goes +1 until it reaches the end of the set. So I think the answer is actually to put this in an else. And so we say, I see how that was working. Okay, it makes sense now. Got it. And so then we just place all of this right here inside of an else rather than an else if, because the else if was basically saying if this is not true, because this was always true until the end, which is why that was okay. Okay. So far, so good. Got to keep working through this piece by piece. So we've got the initialization on beginning. We've got all of this asset spawning. We're setting the filled position to true here. We need to make sure to set the filled position true in the other one as well. Get item open direction, set I check possible to 0, clear current state, send check possible, set all clear to true. Or is there some other place where we're setting the filled position value? So I want to go quickly look and see if I see anywhere else that's using filled position. Right here. Okay. So this was saying set filled position if something. So there was an if here that goes up to here that says if the value is not equal to 0. So remember we were using the 4 dots. So it sets I current state to 4 dots. So then it says get that item. If that item equals 4 dots, we know it's clear and we can just move on to the next one. Or no, it means it's clear and we need to check it. Yes. And if it's not equal to 4 dots, that means it's been filled. It's a placed cell. Yeah. And so theoretically, we're not updating this placed cell unless it's up in here. We only update filled position and placed cell rotations up here. So this will only run for non-filled positions, which is why down here we have that else that says set all clear to false because it's not clear. Although I just don't think we should be engaging with these whatsoever. I know how I was using this before, but I don't think this is necessary. And but I guess because it's going to do this stuff. So maybe it doesn't need to be there. Add I current state to current state. So this tells it the current state. And if it equals 4 dots, it's still 4 dots. So that makes sense. We did want to check in here because all of these were using the spaces and we've updated that to the 4 dot symbol. So if it equals this, if it equals this, if it equals this, and there we go. Okay, so those have all been updated to that, which is good. Now, let's continue looking through here. Got iCurrent state, if all clear. So basically, I'm also just checking that we're not. So right here, it says we're setting it, which is a problem. So place cell rots should only be updated. So make sure that's not setting that. It is setting that. So set iCurrent cell check to, oh, it's getting the item from there. Okay, so it's just getting the item. Just want to make sure we're not using it anywhere else. So this is doing it to the west. Got it. It's doing that multiple times, but it's always just to check that value. -1 from the place cell list. And if that equals this, do that, else do this stuff. Okay, so wait. Looking at this, iCurrent cell check. Oh, because iCurrent states what's being updated. Yep, that makes sense. Okay. And then I really wanted to get back down to the bottom and make sure that this is doing all the things, because it says set current choice, set ispawn current position, then send iadd asset, and then set get item current choice from open directions, and then set iCheck possible to 0. I think that's from the top there before we send the event is what that's about. So I'd like to move this while loop up to here. And then because this while loop determines whether or not we send the event, also that this needs to go up here. And then these two can happen inside this list because those only happen if there's a space open and we continue looping. Okay. So then what we're not doing here is we need to grab the Boolean that we were setting, which is what causes this to stop. So that's from the very top. We have set true at this position. So we need to go grab that. Okay, let's go scroll down to the bottom. It's going to take a minute to scroll. A couple more votes coming in. Thanks for the votes, guys. Oh, somebody's like, just refactor. Start over, please. You know, I do like refactoring, no joke. I do it more often than not. It's true. It is a lot easier. Okay. So we're setting true at the ispawn current position in filled positions. And that will update that position, which I like to have ordered that way. And then we set the current choice from open directions at ispawn current position in the place cell rotations list. So those are the two places those are being updated. And what I wanted to do was try to slow this thing down by a second. So I'm going to add a quick thing in here to slow this down. And this will be false so that we can debug. And when we're debugging, I'm going to put an else in here and send this check possible with a delay of a few seconds. So that way we have a moment to think about what we're seeing happen. So send check possible to self after 3 seconds. And then what I wanted to do is we know the first one is placing for sure correct. So what we want to do is debug print the values here that we were debug printing before to check those as well. So it says right after here, we're going to debug print the current position. So we want to know what cell is it's printing into. And we also want to know what the directions are that it's printing. And that should give us the debug print we need. So let's go see what happens. Also, if you're just joining us, welcome. We are working on wave function collapse, which basically makes maps similar to this. So they are very unique. You can make really cool dungeon crawlers and all sorts of fun stuff. Go ahead and click clear and play. So the first one we don't get information about. The second one's come in and it's in position 8. That's correct. It is open on all sides. That's correct. Then 4 came in. It is in position 4. It does go 1 0 1 0. 7 just came in. It is 1 0 1 0 as well. Then that should be 6, which is 0 1 1 1. Okay, and then that came in as 3, which was now being overlapped over and over again for some reason. And so something went wrong here because it's now starting to overlap. And the other thing that really went wrong, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the script and clear. So the other thing that went wrong is it places here and it's closed on this end, but it places an open one. Like, what? I'd almost wonder if it was placing opposite. So if I do this again, does it still do the opposite? So yeah, it's placing the opposite. Is it always the opposite though? Yeah, it is. Okay, so perhaps what it's doing is the inverse of what I want it to do, which is hysterical. That's actually really hysterical. How did that even happen? I don't know. But that's hysterical. Okay. So it must be... oh, that one actually placed... not really. Okay. So this is good because we've now learned something very valuable about what's happening. And this is going to help us dramatically. So the cells do place correctly. It is placing the correct tile. It is placing in the correct orientation. The problem is that it is choosing the opposite of what we want it to choose. Somehow, I don't know how it's found a way to choose the opposite. Actually, I have a suspicion. The last thing I did before bed was really tired. Tired thinking, and I didn't really think it all the way through. It was a bunch, this right here. This is what I did right before bed. Okay. But I do think we need to start at the top again and just read through it. And so that's what debugging is, you guys. So debugging is really like starting at the top of your script, reading through it line by line, and then figuring out what does that mean. Refactoring is where you're like, I don't want to work with this. I have hit a dead end. I'd rather start over because it'll be easier. And oftentimes I find refactoring really can be a lot easier than debugging. So it's important to do what we said last night, which is 2 parts. It's part 1 is make sure you're testing frequently. So when you find a bug, you're finding it right when you wrote it. And then the other part is go to bed. I should have gone to bed way earlier last night. And because of that, now we're in this debug hell. So definitely not going to force myself to do these. I don't know if it's a challenge, a personal set challenge, but definitely need to quote, follow the instructions, follow my own sayings, or whatever you want to call it. Okay. So this has initialized correctly. We have confirmed that. The spawn current position does work correctly. All of this is great. We then start by sending check possible. We have done a couple of things here. We've set iCheck possible to 0, meaning we're going to start at the position of 0. We've cleared the current state list so that there's nothing in it. Oh, do we clear the current state list down here? I'm sure we do. Yes, it does. It does clear the current state. Okay, never mind. So that's good. Just wanting to check. Okay. So we've cleared the current state. Now we're coming in here and we start by setting all clear to true. We set the iCurrent state to 4 periods. And then we start by checking our north direction. But before we check north, so I actually want to put this right here because this is the north section. Before we check north, what we're doing is we're checking to see if it equals 4 periods. So if the cell at position 0, iCheck possible is going to go through values from 0 to 8. And if it equals 4 periods, we know that all possibilities are possible. That's what we've been saying, but that's actually not true, is it? Or no, we're just saying it's all clear, which gives us the benefit of saying, yeah, okay, see, this is the problem. Got it. This is not the case. I understand what's going on. Wait, no. I'm misreading it. Sorry. Okay, so here what we're saying was if this is true, which it should be, we need to then check it. If it's not equal to 4 periods, then we know that the cell has been placed, and that's why we say it's not clear. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, then we go to the north direction, and we're checking the value to the north. So we check iCheck possible, and if that is greater than column count -1, we know that there is a value to the north. Now we've extensively debugged this last night, but might be worth kind of continuing to think about it. So column count -1. So if we look Yeah, all the placements are correct. So I'm not really worried about this placement. But basically, the columns, there's 3 columns. You subtract 1, you get 2. You know that the cells are 0, 1, and 2. And therefore, if the iCheck possible is greater than 2, that puts it on the second line, which means there is a value to the north because it's on the second line, as there are no north values if you're on the first line. So we set the iCurrent cell check to get iCheck possible minus column count. So we're getting that value that is ahead from the place cell rotations list. And if it equals 4 dots, then we know it's still all clear. And interesting, if it equals 4 dots to the north, oh, that's fine, because we still need to check all the other directions. Yeah. So it's all clear to the north, which is good to know. If it's not all clear to the north, we set, so like the first value is placed ahead of you, we set iCurrent state to the substring of the current cell from index 2 with length 1. So when we look to the north and there's a cell placed there, and it's got the orientations north, east, south, west for the values 1, 2, 3, and 4, we then want to make sure that we're checking its south value to see if it matches our north value. No, we just need to know that our north value needs to be its south value. So we set our value of iCurrent state to be the substring of the current cell check for, so our north will be its south, and its south as at position 2. So it's saying look to the north, and then starting at position 2, so you go north, east, south, 0, 1, 2. The index is 2 with length of 1, which gives us the last character. So if you're index 0, you get the first character. If you're in index 1, you get the second character. If you're index 3, you get, or index 2, you get the third character. Got it. Okay, so we've grabbed the south character from the cell to the north and added the 3 dots at the end because our current state is being updated slowly. Okay, then we set all clear to false because it's not all clear around that. Then we go to the east, and so we go this way. And if iCheck possible modulus column count doesn't equal the column that's in the east, which is 2, so column in the east is 2. So by checking iCheck possible divided by getting the remainder, that's what modulus does. We're going to return the whole value, which is the current column position. And if it is in position 2, divided by 3 returns 2. If it's in position 3, it's going to return 0, which means it's in the first position, which is true. So anyway, it's only going to not do stuff, or it's only going to do stuff if there is a cell, only if this is not equal to 2, because if it is equal to 2, then it's in that cell. Got it. Okay, so then we set iCurrent cell check just like before to be iCheck possible, but +1 because it's to the right. So that's how we get to the right. And then if iCurrent cell check equals 4 dots, we know it's all clear, so we ignore it. But if it doesn't equal 4 dots, we know there's something there. So we set iCurrent state to be the substring of that value, iCurrent state. So we're getting the first value that we had just previously set, the north value. So now we're getting the east value. So we get the first value from that iCurrent state, which is at index 0 with length of 1. And then we add to it with the east value that we're calculating, which is substring of iCurrent cell check at position west, which is the third position, which is the final position, which is number 4 in that. And then we add the 2 because that gives us our westward direction. And then we go to the south and we say if iCheck possible is less than, making sure that there is an item there. So if iCheck possible is less than row count times column count minus column count. So you take 9, subtract 3, you get 6. And if it is less than 6, so we go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's 6. So if it is less than 6, then we know there's an item to the south. That's how we do that. So it's kind of the inverse of what we did for the north. and then set iCurrent cell check to get item iCheck possible plus column count. So now we're adding to the column count, which gives us the next row down, and from the placed cells. So if you were in position, say 3, add 3 to that, you get 6, which is the next line. So that does work. So that gives us our current cell. And if that cell equals 4 dots, then we ignore it. And if it doesn't, we then set iCurrent state to substring of iCurrent state. Man, this could be really cleaned up if I used a not equals 2 symbol there. But I thought I was going to use I thought I was going to use stuff in there, so that's why it's worded so weird. But anyway, so set. Can we just like duplicate the correct thing and then? So we're on south. Remember, we're on south, but let's scroll up here and fix this because I only have to fix it one time. So duplicate this, delete this, grab the not equals to symbol, and this will read a lot better. So as long as iCurrent cell check is not equal to the 4 dots, we can then do stuff. And then we just have to drag this into the if. There we go. That's cleaning this script up nicely. We'll then duplicate this down into here, and then drag this up, and then delete. And do the same thing for the last 2. And then we'll come back to south in just a second. And last one, duplicate and drag up and drag up. There we go. 4 lines of code less. That's not bad. Okay, so under south, we had just set the iCurrent cell check. And we say as long as that cell is not empty, we can then set iCurrent state to be the first 2 characters from our current state. So that's the north and east that we just set. And then we go to the south. And so thinking about this, iCurrent state, if it hasn't been set, would just have the period there. So it would still have the period. So that does make sense. So then the substring of the current cell at index 0 with length 1, and then add a period at the end. And so the cell that we're looking at is the south. So we're looking to the south, which means we need to get to the north. And we know that the first value in the string is the north. So that's the 0, the first value. So that's index 0 with length of 1. So that is correct as well. Continuing on, we go to the west. And to check to the west, we do the same modulus we did before, but we're checking to make sure it's not in the 0 position. And the 0 position means that there would be nothing to the west. And so if there is something to the west, we set iCurrent cell check to be iCheck possible -1. So that's the item immediately to the left of it. And then we get that value. And if it doesn't equal empty, we then set iCurrent state to be the first 3 characters that we just set for the north, east, south. And then our west would be the east value in the character to the left, which would be in the first state with length of 1. So that's correct. All right, so now we've set all clear as needed in all the spots. We are setting all clear if it has been filled, so that's interesting as well. We're then adding the current state to the current state list. And so it's showing as empty. So I think what we need to do is create a new value here for when it's filled, because I don't think it's really understanding the difference between all clear and filled. And so what we want to do is know that the 4 periods means it's all clear, empty, but we're going to add, we're going to set the iCurrent state to be 4 stars. So we got 4 periods for that, and then we're going to use the 4 star symbols to represent that it is a filled state. And so I think this might actually be the issue that we've been running into. Okay. Then we say if we add the iCurrent state to the current state list, and you'll remember that up here, we had cleared the current state. So we're going to add 1 for every cell in the list. So that's currently 0 through 8. And then if it is all clear, we set the length of asset vars at iCheck possible to iCheck possible in total possible options. and set current lowest to the length of asset vars. So this gives us a value that we needed later on. In fact, actually, this set current lowest can just happen right here. That's fine. That makes this a little easier to read and understand what's going on. So we're adding iCurrent state to current state list. This seems like a mistake because we're setting this value to be the length of total possible options, which makes that spot, if it's a star, a possibility. So I'm wondering if we have if all clear and it doesn't equal 4 stars. So maybe we add an, let's try this. So we say if, and then we grab an else if. So theoretically, only if it's filled will it equal this. So we'll grab the equals symbol and say, if iCurrent state equals 4 stars, then we want to do set the position length to be some absurd number. Oh, I didn't duplicate, did I? Undo. Okay, so this goes here in the else if. So we're going to use an else if rather than an if. It just basically is like, okay, if it's not the 4 stars, then we can check if it's all clear. And then up here, we need to give this some sort of absurdity. And so I'm thinking there will never be 1,000,000 options in Horizon at least. So let's set this number to be 1,000,000. And then we'll check to see if the number equals 1,000,000 later. And if it does, we just kind of ignore it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. Double check that, type that correctly. That's correct. Okay. So if iCurrent state equals 4 stars, set the possible options to 1,000,000, which makes it the least favorable outcome. So else if all clear, make sure the world stopped. Good. Okay. Set the length of asset vars. That would be the actual. Okay. And then set iCheck possible to iCheck possible plus 1. And as long as that is less than that, we continue checking the list. And interesting though, is we are setting it at that, which is, oh, but if we leave it as -1, we could just leave it as -1 because that would mean it's not been set. And so then if it's not been set, that could be good. Let's keep it with the 1,000,000 because I know the program's already trying to use the lowest number and a -1 is not lower than 1,000,000. So let's keep with this for now. Okay, so then we continue iterating through this, which is going to cycle for every cell, checking it. And then once it's greater than that, we then say time to send possible positions to self, set current lowest to be the length of asset vars, which you'll see how that applies in just a second. Then we set the I possible position to 0. So we start at position 0 again. And then we set I open directions to open directions. And then when possible positions is received, we set the current state to get item I possible positions. This is starting at position 0 in the current state list. And so we're starting at position 0 in the current state list, and we've added 4 stars, we've added 4 periods, and we've added values. So there are a few things to look for in here that are interesting. And so theoretically, we can ignore the 4 periods and the 4 stars. So down here, we set iCurrent state. We say if set iCurrent state, it's actually already doing this, very nice. So it says iCurrent state to get item at I possible position from current state. And if iCurrent state equals 4 periods, we should actually add another or in here, or the 4 stars, then or gets item possible position from a filled position list. So we were then checking against the possible positions. And I think it would be better if we didn't use I possible positions here, but instead use this I check possible value. So I'm going to delete I possible position and replace it with I check possible just for clarity. I possible position can be deleted. And then we can use I check possible in all of these places because it's the same value that it's checking, which makes more sense when you're reading through this. Okay. Where else are we using this? here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and there, and there, everywhere. Which is why I was really tempted not to change this, but okay, we've removed all of the errors, so theoretically it's out. We'll check as we go. Okay, so we've set iCheck possible to 0, which allows us to restart. And by restarting at 0, we are then going to cycle through the list again. And so we set iCurrent state to get item iCheck possible from the current state list. And here we were checking if it was 4 periods or getting this filled position. So we were actually using that filled position for the first time ever. Oh my gosh. But because of the way that we just kind of like did this, I think it's easier for us to think about it being the 4 stars that we had set. So I'm going to just go duplicate that down. And I just think that since we're dealing with this current state and we think about it as this, that'll make a little more sense than just checking the filled position list, although that was doing the same thing more or less. Okay, so if it is empty or filled, we know that that is not a possibility that we want to check against, because the ones that will have the fewest possibilities are always the ones that are in the radius of that item. So we ignore that by setting iCheck possible to be +1. So we're just cycling forward. And then we ignore the else, which allows us to come down here to this if, and it says if iCheck possible is less than length of list, send possible position to self. And so once it's cycled through the whole list, it says else, send next position to spawn, set next position to spawn to be get item, random integer between 0. We can't read this yet. We'll read this when we're done with the next bit. But basically, we're going to cycle through that list is what we're doing, and that does seem to be working. So we do need to make sure that iCheck possible is being increased later on, but we'll get to that. So this is the area that I'm pretty sure is the bug, but I don't want to read through it because it's really complex and I don't want to lose track of my thoughts. So let's talk about what it's doing first, and then we'll come back and make sure it actually is working. And so what this is doing is it's basically making sure that the piece fits. It's like a puzzle, right? So the piece has to fit. And if the piece fits, it then gets added to the list. And this is where we have IOpenDirections come into play. So we've got IOpenDirections, and it's checking that whole list, and it removes item at index 0 from the open directions. So it checks that piece. It then says, okay, remove it. And then it says, if the length of IOpenDirections is greater than 0, we can keep going. But if it's not greater than 0, and iCheck possible is less than the length of current state. Okay, wait. So this allows us to add matches if it matches. We remove that item from the list after we're done with it. Oh, you brought some food. Thank you. I'm in the thick of it though, so I got to, I'll have to wait a minute. My brain is on fire. Gracias. Thank you. Sure, I'll take those too. Appreciate it. Okay. So right here, we are removing item at index 0 if the length of IOpenDirections is greater than 0. It's interesting that we're using this because we're not actually checking. So I think what this is doing is it's just trying to ignore this. So I think we need to combine this and make this look a little more logical, which is remove item at index 0, and then if this is not true, so if the length of the open directions is not greater than 0, right? So really what we're checking for this else if is the length has been depleted. We've completely gone through the list is what we want to check. So if it equals 0, meaning there's nothing in the list, so I'm going to say less than or equal to, in case somehow it becomes less than. So if the length is less than or equal to 0, we know that we've reached the end. And then we want to check that and this value. So we're going to grab the and operator. And then we'll drag this into the left. We can delete this one. And then what we're checking is if iCheck possible is less than length of current state. So I want to figure out what this is checking. So where is iCheck possible being used? it is the current position. So it's saying I check possible is 0 through 8. And if that is less than the length of current state, why are we using length of current state? I feel like this is the mistake here. So length of current state doesn't make sense. Oh, wait, maybe it does. Because we are getting items I check possible from current state. Set I current state to get item from I check possible from current state. So we are getting that value from there. Are we removing it at any point? I don't think so. So it seems like it should be just returning 9. Set I current state to get item I check possible from current state. So we're going to check and see if we update the current state anywhere in here. We get values from it. We're not removing from there. We're never removing from current state. So this value here, the I check possible, is really checking to see if we're an index, which is easier to look at and understand if it says the current or the row count times the column count just makes more sense to put here. And this is literally doing the same thing. So this didn't change anything. It just visually reads better. So as long as the length is 0, so we've finished going through this list, and I check possible is within index, so it has, it's a real position. We can then set have matches to at I check possible in the total possible options list. Interesting. I'm wondering, and we'll continue dragging this up to just completely fill this up so it's all filled out correctly. And then we have an else if here, and we have a couple more things that go in this section. We can then delete this else if. I'm wondering if this bug could be this right here, because it's setting I have matches to be whatever the previous one is, unless I have matches being set to 0. No. We don't want it to have matches. Yeah, it sets it to 0. Okay, this could be the issue. Okay, so it's setting it to 0. What we need to actually do is up here where we were saying if it's one of these states. Is this inside the else? Oh wait, this is inside the else, isn't it? So maybe it doesn't matter. Never mind. No, it doesn't matter. Okay, we're good. Yeah, that's fine because it's inside this else. I was worried that it was calculating for those other states, so it's empty but no, so it should be counting the correct number of matches for each of those, and it's only counting for those positions. So then set I have matches at I check possible in the total possible options list. And so the total possible options list we initialize on world start to be -1, right? Right up here. We initialize it as -1, but I think we should initialize this as 1,000,000, basically making everything too high to be considered. So there we go. And then down here, we are updating that with 1,000,000 if it's empty as well, which really doesn't change anything because it's already default to 1,000,000. And then we say else if, set it to be the length of the asset vars. That's the total number of possible options. And then that sets it at its position. So that should get all of the ones that are 4 dots and all clear on all sides. And therefore, when we come down here, that's taken care of all of these. So then we set I have matches at I check possible. Okay. And then, oopsie daisy, did I mess something up? I don't know. Let's check at the top. I can't tell if I made the change. Oh. Okay, I think we're good. Okay. Just wanted to see if anything changed in here, but it didn't. Okay. So the thing here we're looking at next is remove item at index 0 from IOpen directions. If length of IOpen directions is less than 0, we are also, okay, so first of all, we're making sure that there are no items left in this list, and then we're making sure that it's within the index, then we're setting the matches. So once it's finished going through this list, we then can set its current matches because it's finished going through the list. There's no more things that it can match with. So then it says if the I have matches is less than the current lowest, which it will be for the first one, we then set the current lowest to I have matches. We clear the current lowest position list, and then we add itself as the value, its position, to the current lowest position list. And then if something comes in with the exact same value, so it's not less than, but it's equal to, we then add it to that list so we can have multiple positions in the list. We can then set iCheckPossible to be +1. So this is how we add if we are not there. So that's perfect because that was the thing we wanted to make sure is that it was also doing iCheck +1 in the else here. And so it is right here. Once it's finished going through this list, it adds 1. And then it sets the I have matches to 0. So it's back to 0. Then it sets IOpen directions back to open directions, resetting that. And then it says if iCheckPossible is less than length of current state, which again is really the same as doing the 3 times 3, and I think it just reads better. So I'm going to grab the row count times column count. And so it says if iCheckPossible is less than the total number of spaces available, we then send possible position back to self. And so this loops back through possible position. And then once it's no longer an index, we get to the else, which is where we were before. And we've set next position to spawn to be a random item. So we get the item. There's a lot in here. Let's break this apart into pieces. I'm just going to duplicate this so I can break it apart. So the next position we're going to spawn is a random integer between 0 and the length of the current position. So we're getting a random position in this list. And then we're choosing that value from the list by getting that number. Okay, so that makes sense. Then we set IOpen directions to open directions. So that's resetting this open directions list, which is interesting because I don't think we needed to do that here. I don't think we're using open directions down here. Oh, I guess we are. Oh, I see what we're going to do. I see what we're going to do. Okay. And then we clear the position rotation list. So basically we need to go create a list of all the possible positions and rotations. So then send possible position 2 to list. So now that we determined which position we want to use, we can now determine what are the available pieces. So possible position 2 is received, and it sets iCurrentState to be get item from the current state list at next position to spawn. And that will return that value. We never clear current state or adjust it, so it's fine to do that. And then we say, if the substring, so if the substring of this from 0 to 1 doesn't equal a period. Oh, right, we should really go back and look at that one thing that I thought might be the bug. But we're so close to the end. I feel like we should finish this piece because this is the last like easy piece, and then we'll go to the hard piece. Okay, so set iCurrentState to get item next position to spawn from current state, and then if the substring of iCurrentState from index 0 to with a length of 1, so position 0, doesn't equal a period, meaning to the north it is not clear. It's very curious because this is backwards as well. How long is this? This isn't super long. Oh, it is super long. Oh my gosh, this thing's insane. This is an insane list. Is this running the old way? Maybe this is the bug. Okay. This might be a duplicate of the thing that I fixed, last thing I fixed before I went to bed, and I didn't realize I had used it in 2 places. And so we should reverse this and stack it into a bunch of ifs. Okay, maybe the thing that I thought was broken is actually totally fine, and it just happened to be that I had the... That's funny. Okay. So what we're trying to do is, just like before, we're checking the puzzle pieces. And so that's why it was stacked like this, because it was so long. And so what we were checking isn't whether it's this, it's actually this or this. And this was the problem, is I was using an and when I meant to use an or, which causing all sorts of problem. But somehow I managed to continue to keep this code in here. So anyway, and then it's not checking if it's not equal to, it's going to check if it is equal to. So we need to put equal symbols in all of these slots. And then we slowly fill this out, which took so long last night. And I'm pretty sure I could just go up and duplicate it, but it's so far away, this might be faster. So, and I get to explain it to you again. So hopefully that's nice. So we're taking the substring of the iCurrent state from 0 to its length of 1, and we're checking to see if it is equal to a period. Because if it is equal to a period, we know that that space is completely open and it doesn't care what goes there. It can be anything. So then that's our north state. And then we also wanted to check to the north if that current substring matches our current string of what's available. So we say if the north matches the current substring of our piece, so we take iCurrent state 0 to 1, and then we match that against our substring of the IOpen direction item at position 0 from index 0 at length 1. I feel like we should clean this up a little bit. I'm going to clean this up a little bit by adding a few variables, because it'll be so much easier to read if we do this. It's a little tedious, but I think it's a good practice, so I'd like to show it. So I'm going to call this N for north. And then we're going to create another string, which will be east. So we go northeast, and then we go south, and then we go west. So confirm string south, and then we go last one west. Okay, confirm. And then we're going to set these values right here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there's more we're going to be setting, but I just want to start by clearing this up. Make it easier to read, because it's easier to debug if it's easier to read. That's the truth. North, east, south, and west. And actually, I found your guys' votes really interesting. I mean, 7 votes have come in, which is awesome. So thanks for voting. A couple of you have said refactor, and everybody else has said, please define these options. So if you still have that question, feel free to comment. I can actually read your comments as they're coming in, which is nice. But the thing about refactoring is interesting to me, because I feel the same way, but for like this specifically, this is a really good practice in debugging. And so I'm kind of hoping that some of this stuff is really helping, like, show you how you can debug. But I'm also thinking that it's quite interesting how we are so instantly want to just start over when we reach a wall, rather than trying to solve the problem, which is like this, because we might make the same mistake again, whereas by debugging we can figure that out. So I just think that's kind of interesting. So as we continue here, the north value was this one here, substring of that. So we can now just drop in here, which makes that so much easier. We were using that in 2 positions, here and there. So I can actually delete this and place this in here. And then we were getting the item 0 from this list and getting a substring of it. So what I'd like to do is get the current IOpen. So I don't know how to label this other than making it super long, but I'm going to call it current IOpen DIRS because that's what it is. Okay. And that should be a capital D. And click confirm. And then we're going to duplicate one of these set 2s here, and then drag that into here. And then what is this value? Well, it's this item from there. And so we can actually just duplicate that in here. And look at, we can actually read this line. And so it says, if the north value equals a period, or the north value equals the substring of the current direction, so they have a match, then, sorry, I'm just like thinking about this to make sure the puzzle pieces match together. I'm like imagining the piece itself and then kind of like imagining, yes, it's to the north. We did check to the south. Okay, so everything looks right. And then, so if that's the case, we're then going to go on to the next one, which is going to be east. So I'm going to just go duplicate these into the A slots real quick, as well as south, duplicate that into here, and west, which will go into here and here. So those are the values we're checking against. And then we have substring of iCurrentState from 1, which is the east value. So we just drop that in here. And you're going to see a pattern emerge up here, which wasn't apparent until we removed all this. And so these are also periods. So we can actually just duplicate these into the 4 slots here. So that looks a lot cleaner. And we can now delete this here. And then this substring that we're checking against is similar to this one. Oh, no. So that was the same thing. That was our east direction right here is what we were getting. And then we're checking that against the substring of the current, and we can duplicate that into there. Okay. And again, this pattern really is emerging that you can see. And so theoretically, I could just keep typing these in, but we have them here. So debating. Yeah, I think it'd be easier just to type them in. So basically what you're seeing as the pattern is that we're moving through this list one character at a time. And so the answer is that this one becomes 2. And then if we duplicate that here, this one becomes 3. And then we can scroll up to here where we were looking at these values, and the same thing is happening here, right? So we're just getting the next value in the list, which is position 2, and then the last one is at position 3. And this looks just so much cleaner, so much easier to read. I know it's a big block of text, but it's way easier to read. And so then if all of that happens and it is true, we can then add that item to the list and set I have matches to be +1, as we now have a match. And we can delete this giant grossness. We can then, after we've gone through all of those ifs, remove that item from the list. And now what's interesting to me here is set iCurrentState to next position to spawn, northeast, southwest, current open directions. Set I have matches to I have matches +1, remove item at index 0 from the open directions list. But we need to save these directions that come through as possibilities, and I don't see that happening here, which is interesting. So set I have matches to I have matches +1. Oh, it is right here. It's adding, yes. Okay, so this is where it adds it to the possible position list by setting those numbers. Got it. Okay, there it is. Perfect. Length of open directions minus length of I open directions gives us the current index, and we save that number. Then we remove it. And then if the length of I open directions is greater than 0, we keep looping. Else we stop looping and we set next asset position to use to be a random item from that list, similar to what we did before. And from position, rotation, list, length of, okay. And then we send spawn current position. And when spawn current position is received, we set current choice to next asset position to use. And we do all the stuff that we've already verified. Now, we could clean up this script up here. This could be cleaned up and become more efficient, especially if we want this to run faster. We should copy what we did below. That'll make it run significantly faster, actually. But for now, this is already kind of cleaned up. It looks a lot nicer than it did as a single line, but we might come back and clean that up as well. So theoretically, this works. I'm just as nervous as you are. Oh, it matches. We've got matches. Oh, and it stopped. Oh no, it's keep going. And they're still matching. Nice. That's not a path, but we're on the right track. We're not trying to do pathfinding here. We're just trying to make this. This is good. Oh, this is so good. Okay. And the last piece is Oh my gosh, it's done. Okay, so if you joined us last night, we had a question. The question was, is depth first search, or excuse me, I can't even say the right name, wave function collapse, is it even possible in Horizon Worlds? And the answer is yes. We've just done it. It is done. Woo! It's really slow though. Like, oh, because I added that delay. Remember I had that delay? Can't get list item expected 0 to -1 got 0. Weird. I should go figure out where that delay happened or that error happened. But oh my goodness, it's done. The delay can be removed by just deleting this whole section here. That was just so we could test it faster. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I'm smiling so hard. I like literally was not going to be able to function today if I didn't solve this problem. So glad we did. There it goes, placing a whole nother set down. I think my problem is I don't like the cube. We originally started with the cube as an object, and I don't like it because it just doesn't have any pathways, where I feel like if we remove the cube from the series, we could potentially, and so we can actually remove stuff very easily by coming up here in our first script and just add an if with a false value in it. So we grab the Boolean value false, and then drag add cube and add 0, 0. And then when we run this script, it will not have the cube as an option. And now it should be more path-like, which is much better. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I think we've now created paths that will always connect. Oh, I'm so happy. Oh, I can't believe it. So thanks for joining us. We're not going to stop here because this is just the beginning. My goodness, but I do need to get back to work. I really have a lot of work to do today. But oh my gosh. Let's see. Boop. Boop. Wow. What? I can't believe it. See, that's what I'm talking about. What was it? That was 1 hour, 19 minutes. You know, almost an hour and a half. 3 hours I spent last night trying to debug that, kind of. It was more like 2 hours. But it's like, when you have sleep, rest, water, all the things. You know, I had some food to try and keep my brain going, but I was like 3 hours past my bedtime last night when I was working on this. And it was just so hard. I'm going to eat this sandwich. Then we're going to go and take that 3x3 depth first search and see how far we can push the limits of Horizon, especially with asset spawning. I want to just do a couple quick things before we log off. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, it's like I said, part 2. They're not super interesting, but I feel like this is the more interesting part of the series because we actually finished it. We talked about a lot of the script that went into it. Although I think you really have to go back and watch the first part. The first 3 hours is kind of all you need to watch if you are just trying to fill in the blanks. But if you need to see it step by step how it was made, you're going to need to watch the whole 7 hours because there was a lot. There was a lot we did in the last few hours. Even though there was like an hour of straight debugging, it fixes a lot of bugs. Like there is actual bug fixing happening. But you could probably get away with watching it at 2x because my brain was just so slow. So, oh my goodness. So satisfied. Oh, I was really afraid we weren't going to get there. I really was. I'm so satisfied. It's funny to me watching Gamer and Tyson talk back and forth in the chat. Unfortunately, they're not responding anymore, so I don't know. But if you're here, you're welcome to comment. Also, not a sponsor. I just literally hear it every day. It's so bad, so unhealthy, but so good. My goodness. Like, But if you work at this restaurant and want to sponsor me, please let me know. I know I've only got 3 viewers right now, but feel free to reach out. Oh, man. Mm. So, Kale, if you're watching, thank you. This is delicious. Mm. You have to be very careful when you eat food and get in VR because your the grease will wreak havoc on your controllers. Okay, I will finish the last few bites after this, after a brief message from our scripting partner, Lake05. And we're back. Okay. Grab controllers. Set this a little further into there. And here we go. So we've done it. We've created a algorithm to create our paths. But the question is, how far can we push this? We don't need any of these anymore. As cool as they were, they're no longer necessary. This, I'd like to take it and snap it down to like there. I think that's totally fine. Can I walk on that? It's weird, my pressing forward to preview mode isn't actually working very well. Not sure why. Might just be my controllers. And so I want to take this and just immediately double it up. So I'm going to slide this over to here, slide that to there, slide this to here, select both, deselect this one, and then slide this out and delete. And so we've gone from a 3x3 to now what should be a 6x6. Now, unfortunately, to change this, I didn't build a controller to change this. We talked about doing that early on, but it was too tedious. But all I have to do to update this is type 66 here, type it in here, and then so on and so forth. So we'll continue doing that. 6, 6, and one more. 6 and 6. Okay. Here goes nothing. And play. Place the first tile. Second tile's down. Third tile's down. Interesting. Can see a pattern emerging here. Collapsing to this way now. Ooh, yep. And it's probably going to go here next. Wave function collapse. Oh, this is so fun. Oh, I'm so excited to watch this. We definitely need to go and optimize it a little bit. It is really slow at that one point I told you about. Ooh, we got a room. It placed a room. Oh, it placed another room. Oh, that's so rooms. Because rooms could theoretically be where a monster spawns or there's like a chest or something. Like, these are really cool spaces. You know what's interesting about a room? Rooms are 0, 0, 0. So they always have openings on all sides. But they could also be periods, like where it's variant. Or excuse me, not periods, but it's the periods. So that way it's always different. Okay, I want to go change that because rooms could have a different spawning algorithm, which would be really unique. Because right now, rooms can't spawn against walls, is the way it's coded. Oh my gosh, there's so many rooms in this dungeon. And all the paths are connected except for that. Interesting. Okay, we got a section with the no connections. But everything else is connected. So let's go and try it out. Oh, this is so cool. So you could like put walls up around this, or you know, just about anything really. This is so cool. So many ways you could use this. Ah, I made it to the closed off section. Oh no, that was bad. That was fun though. So cool. That's very nice. We need to speed this up. Oh wow, we're getting some really crazy out of bounds stuff that we need to figure out. Expected item number 0 to 17 got 22. Can't get list item on. 31. Script execution ran over allowed. Oh, script execution ran over allowed instruction count. Strange, because it didn't cause anything to bug out. It like, despite all of these bugs, it does seem to be functioning. I should try and solve these bugs though. Let's see. So we got the 6x6 spotting, which is pretty cool. We wanted to try something a little crazy, which was that empty space rather than being 4 ones could be 4 periods. The problem is I don't think, I guess it does, doesn't it? It doesn't matter what it uses because it's, okay. So periods could be worked into here. So if I change this from 4 ones to period, 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 the only thing that's not being done is it's not checking against periods in that way. It's not, that's not how they work. Like that's how they work, but that's not how we've set them up to work for this series. So I think for now, I'm going to let the rooms be open spaces. That's a-okay. But more or less, I'd have to come in here to this section where we're doing this if check, and we say if north equals period or this equals the substring matches, but we could actually add an additional or where this equals period. So this needs an or that equals period. So that's interesting. Although I suppose if we know that the substring, the current direction is that, we could actually add another if that kind of is more of an else. Because and this is the one we need to clean up, by the way. Oh no, this is the one that's already been cleaned up. Never mind. So then here, when we're checking this, add length of open directions minus length of I open directions to set I have matches to +1. We want to quickly add one additional thing. So if north equals period, so this checks the values. We want to add another if, which makes this an else if, which is going to look a little strange, but should work. So we drag this into here and drag this if chain into there. We can now delete this, and then we're saying if the value for the current direction equals 4 periods. So if the whole list is the open room, so basically we're saying if it's an open room, we know that the only direction that will look like this is the open room one. And get 0 from I open directions, right? Yeah. And if it equals the room, we want to just quickly add it to the list and recognize that the room can be added to any direction. Yeah. Anyone can have a room next to it. That's what we're saying. Then we're removing item at index 0. Okay, good. And then what we can do is go back over here, change this back to 4 periods. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. And then we also want to try and figure out those bugs, and I'm not sure what's causing them. Maybe if I watch the bugs come in as we're scripting it, or as the script is running. While the length of eyebools is less than 0, Remove item from eyeballs at index 0. Set any space open to true. Item 0 from eyeballs. Any space open. I don't think that's what's causing it. But this is what causes it to stop running. So I assumed that would be fixed. I assume there's one of these ifs that's sending the event that's off, perhaps. Like it's checking something that's out of index. Which makes me wonder when I changed it from row count to column count. No, but that's not looking up through a list to check that. So I don't know. The good news is it does run. The bad news is we don't know why. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit play. There we go. Oh, we got a room. Nice. Oh, snap. Well, found a bug with room. Got 27. I would say it looks like it's adding something that's not there. Okay, let's go stop this for a second. And instead of rooms being denoted with 4 periods, which has double meanings, we're going to change this to be 9s. There we go. So 4 9s, which should solve that issue since that's the only place we will be using 9s. Okay. Which was right there. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so if current open directions equals 9s, we know it's a room. So let's try that again. Clear and play. Script ran over execution account on the position controller. Oh, okay, I can see what's happening here. I don't understand why it's breaking. But oh my gosh, all we're getting is rooms now? What? Probably because it's matching room to room. Never mind. Okay, stop. Clear. Okay, the periods definitely was the way to go, but it misunderstood that the space wasn't filled or something. I think we're going to go back to 1s. It's open on all sides. Ignore all the fanciness we just tried to put in there. I'll come back to it later when my brain has got a little more steam for that problem. But yeah, we don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need that. And then this drags back into here. This drags back into there. So it's nested. And then we can delete this extra. And then what we're seeing happen is that it's running over execution count. And I think it's happening up here because row count times column count is 6 times 6, which is 36. And the while loop doesn't seem to be able to add that many. So if we know that we're always going to do it in sets of 3, we could always add 3 of these at a time, which is what I usually do to solve that bug occurring, which will then make this take 1/3 the time. So that won't be an issue. So let's see if that solves that bug. Script and play. No bugs on world start. So that's one bug squashed. And that squashed all the other bugs. Good. Now it's still running a little slow. And I don't want to watch this the entire way because I know that we fixed that bug. So the last thing I want to do is speed it up using the northeast-southwest method we did. And the easiest way to do this when you have a giant block of code that you really just need to copy paste, but it's like a bunch of pieces. This is what we need to replace, right? And yeah, so this is what we need to replace. And then down here is what we need to replace it with. So what I'd like to do is duplicate this right to here. And then now that we've got a copy, duplicate these into this top section so that they're all held together in one giant block. So I have to duplicate still, which is a little tedious, but it's not too bad. Northeast, south, then we do west, and then the last one. There we go. Okay, so that's all the things that we need. So then we drag this entire block, and we're not duplicating this up, we're just dragging it up right to where we saw that other block. There it is. Drop this here into the else. And then we can drag the north up, the east up, the south up, the west up, the set current open directions up, and get item 0. So making sure iCurrent state is changing, which it is, making sure current open directions is changing, which we know it is because the way we set this up. We then have this whole thing run, and it doesn't need to add these to the possible position list. It just needs to do +1 on I have matches, which is right here. So we can now delete this, and there we go. So this could run faster. We're not sure how much faster, but the way it is set up, I mean, this is honestly a good learning point. Is it substantially faster? No, it's really not. In fact, I'd say it's either the same. Yeah, I mean, it could even be slower. I'm having a hard time determining. But this is pretty cool. So we'll let this keep collapsing. And feel free to ask questions, but we're going to wrap this here in just a second. I think the only thing I'd like to do is show how to change the scale of this to be, more map sized. So if you're a Dan Blast watching this who wants to build his new dungeon, definitely the person I want to show this next bit for. So I'll show you that in just a sec. And then we'll wrap. So very cool. Got a room. Ooh, a double room. That's rare. A triple room? No way. 4 rooms in one? That's okay. You had me a little concerned there, but geez, that's cool. Wow, look at that. The chances of that happening are so low. Very cool. And it looks like all the sides on this map generation, except for this one, are connected. And so I don't know what to do about the missing connections. So there's 2 options. Either one, you use this dynamically changing, and it could be art, it could be circuit boards, it could be maps that you're walking through as a dungeon, it could be towns even. You could use this to build towns or even houses, like rooms and houses. But you run into this problem, and I believe the solution to this problem is probably removing this corner piece. I'm thinking this is the piece that could be the issue. So we've got a bunch of different tiles that you can choose from to make this. And let's go try removing the corner. Oh, weird. Got that bug again. If we remove the corner from the list, so down here, we'll add another if false for corner. And what we're expecting to happen by setting this to false is that there are less possibilities for that to be, because that has so many walls in it. So this should actually run faster too, because there's less tiles to choose from. Yeah, that's noticeably faster, but not much. And so because this doesn't have the corner piece in it, theoretically, it's going to be less diverse as a map goes, but the generation should be completely connected. More maze-like, actually. And so that's really the beauty of of wave function collapse, is you provide it these tiles and it can create various things from it. So it doesn't have to be always the same thing. And when you use these tiles define what does it look like as a structure type. So oftentimes you want to spend a lot of time defining what is the structure type going to look like. And then, so by removing the corner, we knew that, I guess I kind of need to, I can pull them out. Let me show you in a second. This is so good. But yeah, you can see that every piece of this is connected, and I'm pretty confident that it was the corner that allowed us to make this possible. And so that is really cool. That is really cool. So if we stop this and clear, so stop, and then we go into our asset library for the wave function collapse elements, we had the corner piece. So the problem with the corner piece is that it allows for this orientation to form. And by having this as a possibility, this can cause closed loops that are disconnected. If we look at any other piece, so this room is obviously completely open, but if we grab the fork, for instance, which is like this, any orientation in which you rotate and connect these is not going to cause there to be a closed loop. There's no way to close this off. There's always going to be openings. And I think we can prove that this is true for all of the pieces we've got, like the hallway, the pillars. And so whatever you feed this function is what you're going to get back in terms of visual elements. For instance, if we just feed it this, like what's really cool is now that we've set this up under here, under orientations, we can add different if statements to determine what this looks like. So if we go to the fork and maybe just leave the fork on, so I'm going to go turn this up here off. I'm going to grab a bunch of ifs so we can start defining this space. We can create some really unique patterns that we wouldn't have otherwise expected to be possible. And just by simply turning certain tiles off and on can create a very different look. Man, we're at the fun part. This is the fun part of wave function collapse. And so I'm going to have to wrap, but we're turning fork on, and that's the only one we're going to leave on. So we're going to go ahead and hit script and play. And because there's less options, it does appear to generate a little bit faster. But we get a map that looks like this. It's a little different. It's got hallways. I suppose there is the possibility that it could cut off along this wall, but presuming the wall is long enough, that shouldn't happen. Yeah, it shouldn't happen, but I guess that is possible. It could, in a very unlikely scenario, have that happen. But yeah, look at that. That is so cool. Now, I do believe the more of these tiles, the larger we make this space, the longer this will take to run, as it has to compare against all of the other spaces. So that's something we're thinking about. But this is so cool to watch it generate. My goodness. What a thing. Look at that. And so you could put walls along the whole side or whatever you want to do, but this is neat. This is really, yeah, it's just something. So you could have like this whole wall blocked off, this whole wall blocked off, and this is one entrance and this is one entrance. Those are some possibilities. Or the other thing you can do is you can place tiles down specifically. And so let's go ahead and hit stop and clear. So you could know that you want to have a specific element be the door element, right? So maybe it's this hallway is our door. And so you place door element right here on this spot. And then you place cuboids. So you could manually place these up front so that you choose one of these positions at random to place your entrance. And then you can place these down. And so I've actually done this. That's how I did my dungeon that I was working on in the past. And so you basically say, this is the entrance, place down a bunch of empty tiles here. You know that you can't actually travel through that. And then over here, you could, place this and also place down a different entrance. And theoretically, we'd have to feed this information in for it to work correctly, but you get the idea. So there have to be another manager script that feeds information in before it runs. So pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anything else to do other than to turn this back to true, turn this one back to true, turn hallways back on, and I kind of like corners, even though they're not as efficient. I did want to see what's the furthest we can push this. So let's add 3 more. So we're going to go into the parameters here and set this from 6 to 9. And we're doing in sets of 3 because that's how I wrote that one line of code. So we'd have to fix that if we went to like sets of 10. But I also don't think we can get to 10. I'm just like hopeful we can get to 9, but because it's exponential growth, it should actually be very upset at us going to 9. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Okay. And here we go. Script, play. First thing is we ran over execution count on that one script, which is going to give us a lot of bugs, but it will still generate, which I don't understand how. Maybe that's some efficiency we can work in here at some point. But what I do know is that we can... Oh, I know why it works. Okay, but we don't want to fix that. So what we want to do is fix this by recognizing that this is in sets of 9 now. So we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. That should fix that. 3, 6, and 9. And then we'll do the same thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So that could fix our bug just like it did last time, or we could find some other bugs. So here goes. Yeah, it's not happy with us. So we'll let it generate anyway, but it's really not happy with us. Oh, one person says debug. Love it. Thanks for voting. Oh, it just completely broke. Got it. Okay. So in that case, we're just going to go ahead and undo all the way back to 6 because it seems like at least the way this script is written, the max we can get to is 6 right now. And again, that's because it's exponentially. Oh, it's not going to let me go back, is it? Because there's too many things. That's okay. I'll manually do this. Easy peasy. So you could like break this into smaller subsections and tiles. There's definitely some ways you could get beyond this piece. But you'd really need to start thinking about the board in a completely different way, which is okay. It just requires you to kind of like start thinking a lot differently about this and how it works. Okay, almost to the bottom of this one. Come up to this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And one more after this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. There we go. And last one. And then on this one, we just need to change the numbers down here. Back to 6 and 6. Okie dokie. So, script and play. Now it's functioning just fine, no errors anymore. We've got the corner tiles, which are going to potentially create a closed off section over here, but I just love the way they look when they're grouped in. And there was one last thing to do, and then we're going to wrap this. But basically the last thing we want to do is make these tiles bigger. So if you come down here, you can see it's really small. We're really tiny space we're in here. But yeah, so we're going to make this bigger. Also, interesting to walk around as it's being grown. Like, is it going to grow in front of me? I don't know where it's placing down tiles. I assume it's placing some. Oh, there it is. Yes, it's placing all around. So is this going to wall up? Nope. It favors walls like this. So this one is where I'd guess it would go next. Oh, maybe not. Oh, maybe not. Interesting. Yeah, it's really fun to watch it grow. I think it's even more fun to be inside of it while it's growing. Oh, you know what? Some of these might be rooms that we're standing in. I can't even tell. Huh. Because the rooms are invisible. Okay. And let's see. Oh, I walked into a wall. Hello, wall. Guess that wasn't a room. Is this a room? Ah, no, it wasn't. Oh, but there's an entrance to it here. Nice corner entrance, corner there. Very cool. Yeah, this is really cool. Oh, this is so fun. I'm so excited. Let's head into build mode, take a look at the final build. There it is. And turn out this one actually is fully connected. So it is possible for that to happen. So that's nice. Very neat. Okay. So last step. And I still am not sure exactly what that is. Might have to figure that one out. This is cool, but it's like needs to be 3 times bigger. So, you know, like I said, 3 times bigger. So we're going to stretch this all the way out to here and then deselect and slide so we can delete this. Come on, delete. There we go. And then what we're going to do is then rotate this one like that. Oh, I'm so sorry. So hard to get that thing to work right. There we go. And got it. So now we've got this thing at 3x the original size. My goodness. And we'll put maybe a little platform up here so you're gonna have a view of it if I publish this world, which maybe we should. So we'll do select this, select that, slide this over just by to here, and then stretch that to here. So this is just the floor. It doesn't really affect the script, but we're thinking of putting this like right here. So go into play mode. You can now see that it's super foggy because it's so big. And you might be thinking, wait, didn't we just determine that we can't go any bigger because of that? Well, what we're doing isn't a change to the script as it is a change to the asset. So what we're going to do is update our assets. And that's relatively easy to do. Go into the asset library here. Now these were 3x3s before, but we want to make them what would that be like? We're tripling, I said, so 3x larger, so it'll become a 9x9x3. And so we should actually put a roof on this too. So roof going up, and the roof should be 3 meters. So we'll drag this over to there, drag this down to here. Okay, that should be our roof. And then ideally, I'd kind of like to put a wall in on each side. I think that might be nice. So it will be a closed off dungeon. So the goal in this dungeon is just don't get lost. Seems like a easy enough goal. And then we'll drag a copy of this over to here and stretch that onto there. Okay, very nice. So can I jump onto that? Because that's what I would want to do if I was in this world. Nope, can't, but that's okay. Cool. So then next thing to do is make this invisible just for the purpose of watching this load in. So we're going to turn this visibility off. And then what we want to do next is change these to be larger. So I'm going to pull the 3x3 corner out. And then I'm going to open up its properties panel and go to the attributes and just type in 3 and 3. Ta-da! It's 3 times larger. And then we just information, edit, and I could change the name to update this, but because I want to go fast, I'm just going to quickly select it, click confirm, click update. And so I've just updated the corner piece. And then we just need to do that to the other options like the fork. So let's go ahead and pull this out. Open it up, attributes, change this to be 3 by 3. There we go. Let go, information, edit, change, select, confirm, update. Give that a second. Once it's done, we're good. Go ahead and delete. Next up is the halls. Blast it out. Open this up. Attributes, also changing this to be 3 by 3. There we go. Let go, information, edit, change, select, confirm. If this was an edited video, we'd be fast forwarding right now. I apologize. Okay, there we go. Next up is the pillars. Pull this one out and open and attributes 3 3. And so you could imagine like these don't even necessarily need to be this, right? Like they can be anything that has the walls looking like this. Like really, there's so many options. But just for our demo, we're keeping this real simple. Information, we got one more left. Change, select, confirm, update. All right, last one. Is that just the cube? I guess we're not actually using the cube, so we don't need to update that one. We do need to update the room, kind of, not really, because it's just an empty space, so I guess that's good to leave as well. So I think we're good to go ahead and hit play. Oh, wait, no, we're not, because the placement of these is determined over here, where we have the value for the cell width, which we have now changed from 3 to 9. So that should fix the orientation of these. Go ahead and hit script and play. Okay, they're off by a little bit, and it's very clear to me why. So give me 1 second. This is meant to represent the size of it, but because the size has now been tripled, we need to scale this so that it represents the right size. There we go. So now let's try that again. Script and play. Okay, it's got its first tile down. Next tile. It's huge, but it will be a lot more fun to walk through, which is exciting. Yes, why not paint them to all match? Almost looks like modern art. So we'll let that finish generating, and then we'll go take a look inside. Also, like I said a minute ago, we're going to wrap soon, so this is it. This is the end. Also, you might be wanting to watch. What am I thinking? We should be looking at it. Look at all this amazement. Well, thanks for joining, guys. This has been a lot of fun. And again, there's a 7-hour stream of us working on this last night, so if you need more, feel free to go check that out. Oh, we got another vote for debug. Very nice. Good to see that getting a few more votes. Really like that. And we're done. We solved the bugs. I wonder if this gets really dark inside when I turn visibility on. So if I make this visible and look inside, is it really dark? It's really not. It's kind of nice. So I guess what I can do is turn visible off, but turn light and shadow on to see it casting shadows. So that's what it looks like with shadows. Interesting. That's quite interesting, isn't it? And it's almost done. There's only a few more tiles left. And is the whole place accessible? Yeah, the corners haven't messed us up this time, which is nice. So all of the spaces are places you can go to. Nice. Like that, we have finished our wave function collapse dungeon. We'll turn on the roof visibility. Heading into play. Oh yes, welcome Craig. Oh no, my drift was throwing me the opposite direction. It is pretty cool, isn't it? Oh, I want to stretch the roof out. I'm just a little nitpicky like that. There we go. And like that. And one more. I would like to publish this and see if it's broken, because I know asset spawning's been broken for a lot of people. Oh, it's interesting. There's 2 entrances. That's kind of cool. I like this. Do. I win! I did it! Because we didn't put an entrance on the other side. So imagine that this wall isn't here, and that instead of this being a wall, this is the exit. But I do think sometimes the dungeon experience isn't so much about getting to the end as much as it is about the journey throughout. Like, look at these things in here. And so one thought I had for this space was like, if you use this to create your dungeon, people could go into the dungeon, and once they clear it, they could load a new dungeon, and it would just be done, multiple series of dungeons, one after another. And so here we are, and oh, look at this room. You can imagine, like, if we'd placed items in this room, there'd be all sorts of cool stuff here, like mobs to fight, all sorts of things. This is so cool. Oh man, I love this so well. Like, I worked so hard on making a depth first search algorithm and making it so that it could do rooms, and adding rooms took me literally weeks, and we made a simple program that adds rooms that are amazing in no time at all. This is so cool. Wow. Wow, I cannot believe how awesome this is. I'm like actually getting a little lost in here. Like, I know the intention isn't necessarily to get lost, but I'm just imagining all the things we could place in this space. I think that's the exit. Yeah, that's the exit. Oh, this is so neat. Thanks, Craig, for joining and telling me how cool this is. I appreciate it. We spent 7 hours last night of just me banging my head against the wall, solving bugs and stuff. But it was all worth it to have this dungeon generator. And if you go back a little bit, Craig, what we talked about is how you can change the way the dungeon looks by just turning things off and on. And so if you want this to be less open, because it's using wave function collapse, all you have to do is turn certain properties off. So for instance, also, I don't know what that bug is, but because everything's working, I'm kind of not going to fix it. Maybe not yet, maybe in the future. I know that's terrible, but like, I'm just like, we're done. So what we can do is go over to our orientation loader, and at the top we have true and false values. And so we turned the cube off because we didn't want to have any cubes load in, but we could load in no pillars. So the empty spaces represent the rooms, but if we turn off pillars and just stick to the other things, we should get a lot more. I'm going to try and hold my head steady for this loading. This is going to be painful. Here we go. So what we should get is honestly, what I'm expecting is that we're going to get some closed off sections that we can't get to. But based on what I had said before, I'm not really concerned about that, because the reality is that the user will be able to reload another dungeon and just keep going. Like that section that just got closed off over there, not a big deal. And so if we had pillars, it would be less likely for that to happen, but things would be a lot more open. And so this has lots of hallways, but theoretically those hallways should dead end or like curve like that one. And so it should make it a lot more winding because there's no pillars, and the pillars were just open on all sides with 4 pillars in it. And they basically functioned like rooms, but without being a room. Like, look at, there's a dead end right there. That's nice. Yeah, this is really cool. And so that's going to make a whole nother area over there, which is cool. And oh, this is really fun to watch. So yeah, I think this might be my favorite version of it. Even worse, the only way to currently reload this is to use a hard reset, which doesn't work in play mode. It only works in build mode. So, oh man. But look at this. Look at those paths. There's like a whole, like there's a room out there that you can get to. Like that is a dungeon room. And you could even make it so that when this is loading in these dungeon rooms, oh, look, there's another room right here. So you got 2 and 3 entrances again. And all sorts of winding paths. I like this a lot more better without the pillars. But you could imagine, oh, that wasn't a room. Never mind. I'm disappointed. But you could imagine that we make more than one room as an option for it to load. And because there's more than one room, it would then have more dungeon rooms spawning. And so the distance, we could set it so that if the distance of a dungeon was further from the entrance, it could have like more valuable loot and more dangerous stuff. Or you could have, layers and stacks. There's so many things we could do. But anyway, this has been awesome. The only thing left to do, wave function collapse. So we're going to call this Vidyuu dungeon algorithm. Thim. I don't think there's another M. Algorithm. How do you spell algorithm? Why am I messing this up? Algorithm. Okay, we got it. And then I want to put in parentheses wave function collapse, because that's pretty impressive. All right, there we go. Acknowledge stuff. We should take a picture of the world with this turned off, visibility off on this. Take a picture. Whoa! Whoa! My name's backwards too. What? This is so, I've never seen this before. I don't know how to use this. What the heck? How do you use this? How do I How do I use it? How do I... But how do I... How do I grab it? I don't know. Okay, I figured it out. It was very difficult, but we got it. Picture taken. You can't print the picture? You can only share it? Okay, interesting. Now let's use it as the world picture. Update thumbnail. So weird. So weird. Okay, this is a beta world because it's probably not going to work. It will be visible to the public, so you can come check this out. The comfort rating is comfortable. The tags are... It's more or less art, but it could be a board game. Exploration Hangout? I don't know. Let's put it under art. It is for everyone, and we got a good thumbnail image. Player settings, I don't know. Can we go to 32? Is it happy with that? It seems to be. It's like, yeah, you can have 32 people in here. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It'll be fun. Don't worry about it. Okay. So we'll leave this as non-visible so that it looks cool when you're loading in. And the other thing we wanted to do is maybe just adjust that real quick. Make sure the audio settings in here are nice. So I'm thinking some extended audio would be good. And maybe we'll set this to be something a little bit more moody, like Misty Marsh. Or Twilight even? I love Twilight, but I think Misty Marsh is the way to go. There we go. Maybe I should take another picture of that. Ooh, maybe we should add a light. Okay, and unlit, no. Glow, intense glow, and then we'll choose some really fun colors for this. So duplicate, color, and then we'll grab like a blue. We'll duplicate. Have another fun color, like maybe this red. Okay, and so then what we'll do is we'll set these here and there and here, and then we got to make sure that this doesn't have lights on it. Yeah, that's kind of nice. We'll lift this one off. Nice. Okay, this is pretty cool. Time for one more photo, and then we can post it. Hey, Omni, welcome back. Great to have you. I hope you can hear me. I was muted. I'm not sure if it was actually... You guys can hear me, right? Like, when I'm muted? Can you? Let's try muting myself. Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. Okay, cool. So even when it does mute me, you can still hear me. Okay, so let's switch this camera around. Flip the orientation. Oh, interesting. It functions a lot like the Oculus... menus. Oh, I left the blocks as white blocks. How do I get into build mode? Okay, there we go. Open properties panel, non-collidable, non-visible, turn lighting on, let go, and then head back into play mode. Okay, and try that photo one more time. Swap it, switch it, pop it. What? This is such an interesting thing. Go to photo mode and picture. Got the picture. Nice. Let's head into build mode and then go to world settings, update photo, cancel, update photo, select, confirm. Nice, looking real fly. I acknowledge and publish. Let's go see how broken this is. Loads 2 blocks and crashes in public. Honestly, that's what I'm expecting to happen, Omni. I'm like, quite literally, I don't think it's going to work because it's using asset spawning. So let's go find out. Let's go to worlds and wait, we're in this world. Publish world page. Vidyuu dungeon algorithm wave function collapse. Like it. Visit world. Here goes nothing. So yeah, you're welcome to come check this out. All 2 of you. Just kidding. But yeah, I mean, if you're watching this in the future, for sure you can come check this out and take it for a spin. So look at, there it goes. Assets are spawning. That's the good news. We'll see if it functions. The colors are nice. It's definitely not a maze since you can see it. I mean, like, it could have been a maze, but because you can see where everything's loading, which is part of the fun of this, you know, seeing it collapse. And then to load this again, because world reset just isn't really reliable, you'll go and hit 3-dot icon, launch an open session, and just load a new session. Like, that's just the method for now. Oh, really? So they fixed asset spawning bugs. Nice. There was, we should go to, man, I wonder if I can reset the world then. Maybe I can add a reset world button. But my problem has been that when you reset the world, the assets stay there. So that's a world, I see it in world tours, it's bugged. And I'm not sure about in the Vidyuu park. So in Vidyuu park, we have the maze generator, the depth first search algorithm that we released last month, 2 weeks ago. So this is loading in nicely. It's almost done. It's got a few more tiles left to load. It's kind of hard to tell if it's a room because the rooms are just empty. Man, I love this. I like really want to go back and finish working on my dungeon and use this algorithm because it's so much nicer. Yeah, interesting. There's only one room, but it's in the far back, I think. Is that a room? Is that a room? Okay, it looks like there's 2 rooms. 3 rooms? Wow. I've never seen it load with this many entrances in the front. That's interesting. That's so cool though. 3 rooms, several entrances. Every time it runs, it's different, which is so cool. And then what we wanted to quickly check was Vidyuu Park. So go to Worlds, go to Vidyuu Park. There it is, information. Posts and feedback. Hey, it's Michael Gregory. Dude, Ismail Spin, welcome. Approved and approved. Okay, and back. And theoretically, I'm hearing that if I visit this world, should have the maze working. Yeah, I took that out of my world. I was just saying in general, a lot of my assets were actually acting strange, but world reset is still strange. Oh, okay. Yeah, in build mode, things work fine. So it's only in the published world that I'm worried about. And that one worked just fine too. So we did asset spawn the entire wave function collapse, which is great. And so in here, the problem I've been having, I think is because it's despawning. I think it's this script doesn't despawn correctly in a published world. So right now this should be, wait, is it not going to do anything? I was trying to look for bugs on my menu, but it's not even doing a thing. Yeah, so that stinks. And I don't think I have a world reset in here. So I can't just like reset it, but this is supposed to be working. It works in build mode. I showed it yesterday during the live stream that this does work in build mode, which is why I was being I was like, it might not work when we publish this. So I'm glad it did work when we published it, but it does really stink that the depth first search one doesn't work. But yay, wave function collapse does. Also, if you haven't been here, all these assets are in your asset library in the community featured section. And so I'm like going to go ahead and call it there, guys. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. I'll switch the camera over before I shut down my audio. Let's see. Boop, 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 boop. What a day it's been. We've done so much. Power off. I am going back into VR, quite literally, as soon as I hang up this stream to work on my other project that I'm working on. So glad we got that done though. I mean, last night was really rough and just woke up knowing I had to finish that before I could do anything else today. So really, really happy that we got through what was pretty intense. So very neat. Horizon remaining a little open over here. Silly Horizon. And I want to go to Chrome. I can see your messages. So I guess I'll say bye Omni, bye Craig, bye Tyson, bye Gamer, and if you're still here, bye as well. Or I should say bye. Debating if I need to say anything else. I think I'm gonna eat my sandwich, drink some water, have a good day. Bye. And oh wait, I ended stream over here, I think. And